4 years running a nonprofit, a couple years being a knucklehead at a private equity firm, and 17 years at CA. The CA story, we started with 100 employees. We have 2,600 employees today. 100 of those are in Bangalore. That'll be 300 to 500 in the next couple years. It's a classic GCC. We were print only. Today we're 70% software. We had 26 million in sales. We have over 800 million in sales today. Our total enterprise value was 13 million when I took over. It's actually about 6 billion today. We were family owned, and now we are PE and management owned, Permira, Berkshire Partners, and Hellman and Friedman. So that's the good sounding story. The real story is we almost went bankrupt. We had existential crises a couple times a year. We were scared the entire time, and we got a lot of good luck come our way. All right? And from that, I am going to share these 10 lessons. The first 3 are on people. My experience in every education company I've ever seen is that management is overrated and frontline staff is underrated, that the delivery of the service in the last mile is the thing that drives the success, that the small decisions on product are what drives success. There's a lot of focus on management and a little too few focus on the great people that do the work every day. With that in mind, I learned this once. It's the best thing that I've ever been taught. It is easier to be an outstanding recruiter and an average manager than an average recruiter and an outstanding manager. I heard that from a gentleman that some of you know in America named Jeff Smart, G.H. Smart. As soon as I heard that, this was in San Francisco when I was first starting, I decided to be an average manager. I spent 50% of my time on recruiting. In my 17 years at Curriculum Associates, I personally interviewed over 4,000 people. Up till 2 years ago, I would not let anyone enter the company until I interviewed them. I found that if I got that right and then did what staff said, that it was much better than my trying to manage them. Another important thing, if you want happy employees, hire happy people. Negative people are negative. Happy people are happy. You want a good employee survey? Hire all happy people. You go down the hall in the office and you say, "How you doing?" And they're like, "I feel happy." They weren't happy because of you, they were happy anyway. Negative people are cancer. They drive cancer in your company. The way to do that is not let them in. Embrace your competition. In my country, 90% of the schools are run by the government. In this country, I believe it's somewhere between 60 and 70%. The government are going to run the schools. It's impossible to imagine, I think Michael described this better than anyone I've ever seen, that they can do that without a healthy entrepreneurial ecosystem. They need us. They cannot do these jobs without us. We understand that their jobs are harder, much more difficult and political, but they must have an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Our fighting back and forth is serving children. People say all the time you need to work work smarter, not harder. I think that's total nonsense. It hasn't been true in my experience. You need to do both. My head of sales, I think, is a great example of this. He just worked harder than anybody else. He's not good at golf. He doesn't know how to small talk. But he met more people, more iterations, and when he got home at night from the plane, he read Ohio State's assessment guidance in the middle of the night and outworked anyone. The people who outwork in our industry win. This, which was the title of this before I changed it to the top 10, is that we are in the service business. I think this is the least understood thing in either K-12 or higher ed, that you have to be in the service business. What Michael's great remarks that he just made is he is also in the service business. People keep focusing on the product, the elements of the product. Great products don't create change. Great implementations of great products create the change. There are 2,500 people at Curriculum Associates. Over 1,000 of those do service with all of their time. Great service begets great products, right? Because you don't need a focus group if you have 1,000 people yelling at your product people about how to make it great. Everyone, when economic times are tough, tries to reduce the service offering, not have it, automate it, do all these things. It won't work, at least in schools, in places where you're teaching kindergartners and first graders and so forth. You need to be there with the teachers, and when you do that, the great change comes alive. Like most CEOs, I had a troubled childhood that made me have some kind of ego needs to run a company, okay? And I had a death in my family and so forth, and I decided in my life to lead it with integrity at all times. That's how I decided, but it doesn't matter. It turns out in our space in education, integrity is a competitive advantage. If somebody knows that you're operating with integrity all the time and they trust you, you're talking about children, taxpayer dollars in support of children. When they trust you and you do something wrong, you didn't deliver on time, you had the wrong thing, there's some compliance you didn't attach, they stay with you. Renewal rate is the great elixir of education, companies like ours, that if you get the renewal rate and an upsell rate, you're going to win. That starts with trust and operating with 100% integrity all the time and thinking long term. Whoever produces the best products and the best student outcomes will drive the best shareholder returns. Our industry, at least in America with private equity, has been mined sometimes, and people start getting involved in short-term thinking. That short-term thinking feels good for a year, but in education where it has 2 or 3 year sales cycles, at least in the K-12 education, it doesn't work. You can just watch them fall. I just watch the competitors start to pull back from product development, pull back in investment. Our R&D budget is $172 million this year on K-8 reading and math. I have no idea what the people who work for me do with that money, okay? But people who outperform and deliver those great things long term are going to win. This slide did say that I think going public in the education industry is dumb. One of my handlers made me rewrite it. If you look at the people who go public in our industry, you realize 2 things. One is that CEOs and management teams are unhappy. 2, that private markets would have paid them more. I know that's unpopular saying in a place like this, but I've seen it again and again where the companies go public, they languish, and then go private again. Currently, and for the last decade, the private markets have paid more than the public markets. One of the reasons for that is that the private markets, there's so much money available to them that they're willing to pay, they have debt and so forth. And because of the long sales cycles long term, you can outperform than the public markets. I would urge you to be very cautious about going public, and I understand I'm talking to people who might think that's not a popular notion. Finally, I would say urgency. An 8-year-old in New York City, in Boston, where I'm from, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and here in Delhi, doesn't get to be 8 years old again. We have not delivered all that we can, that we know we can, the kinds of innovation that many of you are involved with. We have not delivered that, but that child doesn't get to be 8 again. We miss them. Our industry needs to act with more and more urgency, and I wish you the best as I retire in doing that well. Thanks for letting me be here.